So I have I put together a short video of 3 minutes. Just it was a teaser that I put on my YouTube channel. So that will be the perfect opening for this material. So let me just play this here. Let me know if you don't hear the sound, but it should work fine.
Oh.
Sounds okay.
Awesome.
Cool. It reminds me of that that film, French one.
Yeah, there's that's right. It was called the Revelation of the Pyramid. That's right. So this alignment has been known for quite some years now, and I've done some work on it. Actually, it's more like the sites helps validating some of the work that I'm doing. So let me go through the slide. So what I want to show here is that there's very amazing physics encoded in this alignment. And the physics clearly of black holes and micro singularities is very clearly encoded at a very high degree of accuracy. Micro singularities, I mean, there are different theories how to interpret it, but really it's a region of space-time where curvature becomes infinite, just like what we found in the center of black holes. And it's theorized by many that any point in time and space, any dimension, any density can be accessed through micro singularity wormholes. And it also has implication in terms of quantum gravity. So this appears to be a technology that the ancient civilizations have been using extensively. I do have actually a quick video also. It's a 30 seconds video of a good friend of mine who does quantum hypnosis. And she mentioned that in her subjects talks about this technology. So let me play it.
Wow. Incredible. Because my clients, when they remember being extraterrestrial, they remember using the black holes, and they use like kinetic energy or whatever to transverse
Jimmy, pause it for a second.
through their,
Yep.
through their,
Hold on a second.
you know, whatever you want.
Yep.
I'm seeing her this weekend. She's going to do a past life regression on me.
Here we go.
Oh, awesome.
And record it. And I had lunch with her at Contact in the Desert after she did this session. I don't know if I told you guys about this, but during one of her sessions she did it with someone, they just randomly said, and Robert Edward Grant is the incarnation of Ra.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of the session. So all of a sudden everyone's like writing on my page, they're like, you're the incarnation of Ra. And I'm like, what are they talking about? So then I had lunch with her. She goes, yeah, it came out of there. And she keeps talking about the return. She keeps getting all these downloads and stuff about the return of the architects.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow.
And so she's like convinced. She's like, I have to do a session on you. I have to do a session on you. I'm like, sure.
Ask her if she might have some time in the future to do me.
Yeah, I mean, you can get in contact with her. You can ask her yourself, actually.
I didn't know what her contact information is.
Yeah. I'm still listening. I'm on my way to another appointment, but I'm still watching and listening. So keep going.
All right, let me restart the video briefly. It's a short one, so let's play this again. She talks about her clients remembering being ETs and using black holes, macro singularities to travel from interstellarly. So here we go.
Wow. Incredible. Because my clients, when they remember being extraterrestrial, they remember using the black holes, and they use like kinetic energy or whatever to transverse themselves through their, you know, whatever you want to call them, ships or whatever, like using their mind and kinetic energy.
That's exactly that. So I found it was an interesting data point to add to the presentation. So let me bring this slides back up here. I'll just lost the slides.
Jimmy, I remember in your videos, this girl talking about the meditation in the pi. You know answer? You no question about pi, only for and the answer come back with the pi. If this
I know I didn't know about her the information she got about pi, but actually we're going to talk about pi in this presentation pretty extensively. We'll see it's connected. Yeah, it's very connected to this technology encoded in the ancient sacred sites. So one of the equations we're going to use also, I'm using is to calculate the size of these micro singularities, or these mini black holes, if you will. It's a combination really of the Schwarzschild metric we see on the upper left side here. This is the original Schwarzschild metric, which calculates the radius of a black hole based on its mass and the gravitational constant over the speed of light squared. So what I did here, I combined the general relativity equation of Einstein. So instead of looking at first the radius, we're going to look at the diameter. I will show you it's more practical. So we're going to look at diameter of black holes. And instead of inputting the mass as the key input, we're going to use energy, because that really fits better with the geometric harmonics material that I've been working with for several months now. So when we look at these sites, how they are aligned, so we realize that if we take Nazca and Giza as a reference point, there's a North Pole here that will be located there, right? And essentially that alignment is like the old equator, if you will, or could be an old equator. And the theoretical North Pole will be located at this location. So I did some work on it, extensive work, and I found the location of that North Pole by different calculation and trial and error. And so this is what we see here is the summary of all these sites, their coordinates, all the sites we saw in this video, and also their distance from this old equator, if you will. And we see that the average distance that we see is 5,398 nautical miles. And again, you know, I'm using the nautical miles because that's the unit that's compatible with geometry. And the median is 5,400. So theoretically, I mean, if you have you hit the perfect center of this equator to the North Pole, you will have exactly 5,400 nautical miles. And we see that it's really, really close to that number for all these sites. I did some research and I tried to find out why, is this number special in terms of harmonic? Why is this number appears to be so special? And so I did some mathematics on it and used Excel, did some graph. And so in this graph, we see on the y-axis is the difference between the macro black hole energy, right, that we input and into this equation here, into the Schwarzschild metric. So the difference between the black hole energy and its surface area, right? So essentially when we hit the zero here, that the red line, it means that the energy of the black hole equals its surface area. And interestingly, when we go along that curve, as we increase in energy, we have a little drop here. And then when we hit this harmonic 5391, at that energy, the micro black hole has exactly the same surface area as a sphere. So it's a unique point. It's a very, an exception, if you will, a unique an intersection there. So that's really interesting because this number, as we can see, is really close to the average distance between all these sites and this theoretical North Pole. I did some additional work and find out that essentially if we input this harmonic energy into the Schwarzschild metric and look at the various things that we're getting, the results are really, really remarkable, and it's really hard to believe this is just an accident, and I don't believe it is clearly. So as I said here, the energy is 5400, the surface area is really close to it, matches the energy. Now look at the gravity acceleration. So the diameter of that mini black hole, this micro singularity, this diameter matches exactly the Earth gravity acceleration of planet Earth. So this is quite stunning because, and this is the calculation here to convert, or, we know that the Earth gravity acceleration is 9.78 meter per squared seconds, right, at the equator. When convert that into nautical miles per geometric seconds, we get this harmonic 4.15149. And we see here that we get 4.1495. So there's a 99.95% match. And this really raised the question as to, was this technology, was this harmonics, this energy required or used to lift these massive stones that we cannot explain how they put these stones over there on these top of mountains, from all these sites that are aligned essentially with this location. Clearly, there seems to be a connection there, and I have not figured it out yet, but clearly this hardly, it's hard to believe it's just an accident. And by the way, the gravity acceleration, when we represent that into the speed of light harmonic, 144, it's exactly 2c squared. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that this black hole volume will be equal based on this energy again, right? This 5400 harmonic, the volume of that sphere black hole will be Golden ratio over 432. The radius of the black hole will be 144 squared, and the ratio of the surface area over its volume will be equal to harmonic 144. And we see in the table here, the percent accuracy of this calculation is just stunning. Just hard to believe this is just an accident. So clearly there seems to be something really, really special about this harmonic and this energy, and raise the question if this actually was not what they used to construct and lift and transport these massive stones, at these locations. Now, one more thing that I did, and actually, believe it or not, this calculation came as a bit of a download earlier this week. It's fresh material, and there's a little story behind it I'll tell you in a second. But I was curious to see if we convert this harmonic energy into frequency, what we'll be getting, right? And so that's the download, if you will, that I got. And so using simply the Planck formula here, which allows to calculate the frequency based on the energy and the Planck constant. Again, these constants are expressed in nautical miles per geometric second, right? We get a frequency that matches pi. 3.1473 exact, to be exact. So there's a 99.8% match with the mathematical constant pi. So this number is really special. And here I put this little story behind it. I took a screenshot because when I had this influx of information, I was actually driving. I was with my wife and a friend, and we were coming back from a site actually where we were exploring, and there's a long story about it. I covered it in a separate time. Megadelitic site that's here in Groom Creek, near Prescott, Arizona. That was mentioned by Valiantor, actually, a Venusian in the 50s. It's in the book, The Stranger at the Pentagon, mentioned this site. I'm a few miles away from that location. Anyway, so we went exploring that, and on our way back, I was driving, and I had my GPS still running, and I took out the GPS and just started doing this calculation because it's fairly easy calculation. I knew the Planck constant by heart, and so I was hit, really shocked to see that we got the frequency pi. And when I, went back to my regular phone, it was an hour 44 in the afternoon. It was Sunday, July 28th. So I found it quite an interesting synchronicity.
Perfect.
Now, the other thing is, now this frequency is expressed again based on geometric seconds, right? So I converted, if we convert this frequency into a regular frequency scale that we use for the stuff, radio communication, this frequency equals 3.54968. That's the harmonic, essentially. That's a frequency. Interestingly, this frequency happens to fall into the amateur radio band. And as you may recall, I'm a licensed amateur radio operator. So I have a full-blown equipment here to broadcast on this frequency legally. You see my radio here that's tuned to that frequency. I have an amplifier that can put out about 1,000 watts, 1 kilowatt. And so I have earlier this week tuned up my dipole, a very long dipole antenna, because these frequency, these are long wavelengths, so you need very long antenna. That's 120-foot long dipole antenna. And so I'm going to be doing some tests on this, but certainly at least broadcast some messages to our friends up there in space to let them know that, this, share some of these slides, and just like a homework, if you will, that they're sending back. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention about this is, like, not only the frequency is equal to pi of this harmonic, but you may recall in my presentation several weeks ago, I showed that if we take the volume energy of the Great Pyramid of Giza, right, because in geometric harmonic, the volumes of using geometric harmonic unit, which is the cubic nautical miles, equals energy directly. What we see as empty space is actually full of this harmonic energy. So it's a one-to-one relationship. And when we take the volume here that I inputted, the dimensions of the Great Pyramid based, in nautical miles, and we see that the volume energy equals to this harmonic here, 408,801. When we input that into the Schwarzschild metric to calculate the diameter of the mini black hole corresponding to that energy, we get exactly pi again. 3.1413 is a 99.99% match. So interestingly, the Great Pyramid of Giza is really unique because by its location on this old equator, that distance, the distance is matches 5,400 nautical miles. If you see here on that table that I mentioned, see here. So if you look at the Great Pyramid, in the middle here, this 5,400 nautical miles. So again, with all these properties of, this mini black hole diameter equal to gravity acceleration and so on, based on that energy of that location, but also actually the volume energy of the Great Pyramid itself by its dimension has a mini black hole equal to pi as well. So it's a double pi, if you will, in terms of its dimension, volume energy, and frequency that corresponds to that.
Wow.
Now, interestingly, we see that this pi is being encoded all over the world, right, in various ancient sacred sites, the Triton, from the Stonehenge to the Temple of Apollo, the Torii Gate in Japan. So it clearly seems that these ancient civilizations left us this information encoded in that way. Now, one thing that I came to mind also, I said, okay, if we use the current North Pole, and we look at, this distance of this harmonic, 5,400 nautical miles, what will we see? And can we find, ancient sacred sites located at this distance? And so I just went along the prime meridian here, obviously longitude 0, and hit the equator, and this falls in the ocean. So when we zoom onto this location, we clearly see that there's a very like an anomaly under the ocean here that's sticking out. So I would be really curious to have somebody go there would do an expedition to find out what's underneath the ocean there, because mathematically this seems to match. Clearly there's indication that there could be something really important buried under the ocean there. Quickly, part two, the speed of light revisited, because this comes into a lot, and so one thing I found out recently too is that if we look on the left side of this table here, right, looking at standard time in different units, we know our speed of light is 299,792.458 kilometers per second. John was mentioning we're adding a 1 at the end, we're at 459. I'm fine with that. So if we convert this distance or this speed, and we know that light does not really travel, but we'll use that terminology because that's what's accepted. So if we convert this speed into nautical miles per regular seconds, we get this number here, 1618. And we're familiar with that. That's a golden ratio. So it clearly, in the nautical mile system, the light travels at 1 golden ratio per second. It's remarkable. If we make the conversion from the regular time to geometric time using this factor, right? The factor to convert from regular second to geometric second is simply the double square root of the golden ratio. We get harmonic 144 nautical miles per geometric second.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Now I did, and what I'm getting into here is that the Giza complex itself encodes the mechanism of creation and the energies that are involved. I'm going to get into this, but this is a prelude because that information will feed into what I'm going to talk next very briefly. I'm trying to go as fast as I can through this. Can you still see the screen?
Yep, you still see it.
Okay, sorry, I just, here we go. So here, I presented the distance between, if we look at the distance between the prime meridian, longitude.
The screen for me became black.
We're not seeing the screen now. It's
Okay.
black.
Okay,
there
hold
for a
on a
moment.
second. So I'm going to stop share and reshare because I, by mistake, disconnected my computer here. Give me a second.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. So let me reshare again. Hopefully it's going to work. Okay.
Okay, we got it.
You can see, you got it? All right,
Yep.
perfect. Now, in this table, what we see is the distance between, again, in nautical miles, between the prime meridian and the Giza complex, right? The Great Pyramid. Specifically, this is the coordinate I use. We will recognize it because the latitude matches the speed of light, which is known. So again, in nautical miles, there are 3 Earth models that I use. The spherical, like you got a model where the Earth is modeled as a perfect sphere. And there are different other models that, models the Earth not as a perfect sphere because we know it's not exactly that. But you see these distances are pretty constant overall and really matches the golden ratio. In statute mile in kilometers, again, we recognize that this distance between the prime meridian and the Giza pyramids matches the distance that the light travels in 1 second, regular second. In feet, it equals to pi squared, interestingly. Now, let's talk about the geometric nature of the speed of light. So I found out, so if you look on the right side here, these are the value of the speed of lights, again, in a metric system that you recognize in miles per second. When we convert that into nautical miles per geometric second, I showed a calculation earlier, we get this figure, 143,526.737 nautical miles per geometric second, which is really close to harmonic 144, obviously. I discovered a few weeks ago that when we take a circle that has an area, a circular area equal to 1 golden ratio, the diameter of that circle will match this harmonic 143,532,047, which matches the speed of light harmonic almost perfectly at 99.9996%. I truly believe, actually, as I'm going to show in a few seconds, that this value here is the true speed of light in terms of the geometric speed of light expressed in nautical miles per geometric second. Because remember, when we convert the speed of light, from the metric system or the statute mile system into geometric, the geometric second, I'm using the double square root of the golden ratio, but I don't know exactly how accurate that is, right? So it just works everywhere. So what I'm going to show is that this figure here is actually the true speed of light based on geometry. The light travels based on geometry. Interestingly, this figure that we see here, C, obviously the speed of light is represented by the letter C, is equivalent to, if we use this figure, 143532047, we resolve almost perfectly this equation that I introduced last time, which I introduced many months ago, which I call it the universal formula for the light encoded reality matrix, which is that the product of harmonic 144, golden ratio, and 432 equals to the unity, to the 1. If we use the generic template, C is equal to 144, we don't perfectly resolve that number 1, right? You see there's a little difference here. We still resolve it at 99.4%. So that's the geometric or the generic template. But if we use this geometric speed of light harmonic that I showed here, 143532047, the match is, it resolved really perfectly that equation. So that seems to be a good number. We see here also that this number, even the golden ratio itself, is the division of the 1 through this harmonic. So to the left, we see the generic template, again, the harmonic 144 over 432, match the golden ratio at 99.4%. But if we use this geometric speed of light harmonic, 143532047, we resolve the golden ratio almost perfectly as well, 99.999%.
Wow, definitely an important number.
And this is also really recent, is that what you see on the upper left side here is the actual formula in physics to calculate the speed of light, using classical physics, if you will. The epsilon 0 is the electric permittivity, and the U0 is the magnetic permeability. I know John is expert in these things. I'm not. Yeah. So, but I found that when we convert these units into geometric harmonics unit, again, nautical miles per geometric second, that the square root of that E0 is actually equal to harmonic 432 over 1 golden ratio. It's remarkable at 99.8% accuracy. And the U0, the square root of that is equal to the golden ratio squared at 99.5%. So when we simplify this equation of the speed, to calculate the speed of light based on the electric permittivity and the magnetic permeability components, we get the universal formula here. Exactly. So it was interesting to me because I came up with this formula actually before having found out this solution. So it was an interesting match. And so last part of the presentation here, I'm trying to go fast to this. So what I'm going to show here with all the stuff that we've been seeing over the last few minutes is that the location of the Giza pyramids accurately encodes the energies and mechanism of universal creation. And it's based on the numbers we just talked about. So what you see on the map here is the distance between the coordinate of origin, essentially latitude 0, longitude 0, and the Great Pyramid. So we got obviously a distance A, B, C, D here that we have to look at. And we'll see how this really, really accurately encodes very important information. And that is a summary slide here. So I'm going to break this slide down in different slides to make it simple to understand. So really what we're going to focus on is the first portion of what I call the mechanism for the creation of the material world through the primordial fractalization. So the primordial fractalization, if we theorize or we postulate how creation will have started essentially and created everything that exists in the universe, I came up with this mechanism of several weeks ago, or actually a month ago, and I will describe mainly the first part here and how these energies and mechanism are actually encoded in the location of the Giza pyramids really accurately. But this leads to literally the creation of the material world, the subatomic particles, that makes up our material world, and also the singularity that's associated with it. So basic principle is actually simple. And what we will expect from creation, what we'll expect is that creation will think that instinctively creation will be elegant and really simple, right? Nothing complicated. We expect that, at least that's how I see it. And so if we start with the 1 and we divide the unity, divide the spark of initial creation, some could call it the Big Bang, whatever, right? The division principle we'll be using logically will be the golden ratio. So we will end up with 1 over golden ratio that, well, no, it's 0.61. 0.33988875. So I amplify this number by a factor of 1,000 to make it more visual. So we'll use this harmonic 618 here for this demonstration. So that is the first portion of the primordial fractalization that I called. So that energy, that division of the 1 over golden ratio, that 618 energy, then the next logical step is that we need to create the three-dimensional world we live in. And so what is the simplest three-dimensional structure that exists in the universe? It is the tetrahedron. So logically, we will think that this energy will essentially permeate through a tetrahedron structure. So what we see here in this first portion of the mechanism is that the golden ratio, which is the key to the division of the 1, that distance A is actually encoded here, as I showed earlier, right? The distance between the prime meridian and the Giza pyramid corresponds to the golden ratio, which is the distance that light travels in 1 second. Now, the next phase of it is that not only this energy is being essentially goes into a tetrahedron structure, but we're looking at a tetrahedron with an inscribed sphere, and it's really important. So the way that, if we look at you look at the bottom here, I'm using obviously software to calculate these volume distributions. I don't, come up with that with my head. I use software to do that. So if we take that harmonics of 618 and we divide what volume will go into the inscribed sphere of that tetrahedron and what will go around that sphere, the leftover volume, the residual volume, incredibly, what will go inside this sphere will be this harmonic 186.8 or harmonic 1868, which matches really closely, by the way, 432 squared. And the volume around here, the residual volume, will match harmonic 432 pretty closely as well. Additionally, the side length of that tetrahedron will be equivalent to 2 Planck's length, expressed in nautical miles, obviously. And 2 Planck lengths is really special because if we take the Planck mass and we create a black hole with the Planck mass, the radius of that black hole will be exactly equal to 2 Planck length. And it's exactly something that Nassim Haramein has mentioned about that equation, that inputting the Planck mass into the Schwarzschild metric, we get a radius of black hole that equals to 2 Planck lengths. So all this is not an accident, it all fits in. But what I want to focus on now is this harmonic 1868, right? The volume energy of the inscribed sphere within that tetrahedron, which is represented here. So this is the result of what I described in the previous slide. Now, if you look here, incredibly, the distance B on that map, the distance between the prime meridian and the Great Pyramid of Giza is exactly 1868 if you round it, nautical miles, which matches this volume energy of the inscribed sphere, which is the result of the primordial fractalization mechanism that I just described a few minutes ago. I mean, it's exact. And we'll see, actually, this is the generic, call it the low accuracy model, what I'm showing you now. I'm going to show you next the high accuracy model, where we can nail down these values to many digits of accuracy. Now, the next phase of it, now, if we take, again, this volume energy of the tetrahedron equivalent to 618, right? Now we're going to create a 64 tetrahedron grid, which is a 3D dimensional structure that creates the 2D flower of life, right? So if we take 64 of these tetrahedron with that energy, what we get in terms of energy product is exactly 1 over 2,528. That is the result of it. That result, amazingly, is encoded in the distance C here, which is the distance, again, between the coordinate of origin and the Great Pyramid of Giza. That diagonal here is 2,528.7624 nautical miles. That's exactly the energy of the 64 tetrahedron grid.
Wow, that's incredible. All fits.
It all fits in really nicely. Now, the distance here, D, that I had not figured out, and I just figured that out a few days ago. Now, if we take that distance of 1,798.76 nautical miles, and we divide that, and now you remember, right, this geometric speed of light harmonic I talked about a few minutes ago, this harmonic, which is the speed of light in geometric in nautical miles per geometric second. If we ratio that distance, D, over that speed of light squared, or C squared, we get this number, 8.73123, which matches the Planck length expressed in nautical miles at 99.95% accuracy. So they are giving us the Planck length now through that distance D of that between the equator and the pyramid at the Great Pyramid longitude. There's another thing also that we can get from that distance, which relates to the creation of the observable universe that seems to be encoded as well in this distance d. So we take d 1798.76, and now we're going to ratio it over the speed of light harmonic, again, this 143.532047, we get 4 pi, something really, really close to 4 pi at 99.7% match. If we take that surface area as the surface area of a sphere that we insert into a dodecahedron structure, because we've been told by Plato that the universe was a dodecahedron, well, the volume energy of the dodecahedron matches exactly, or matched really closely, the best estimated volume of our current universe. So we get a volume of 5.55, and the theoretical volume energy for universe is 5.614 to the power of 70 nautical miles. And I have here a screenshot from Wikipedia, right, where they estimate the volume of the universe based on a 93 billion light years of cross-section diameter. If we convert that from the metric system into cubic nautical miles, you see we're getting 5.6138 to the power of 70 cubic nautical miles. That matches the volume energy of this dodecahedron at 99%. Finally, and I'm getting to the end of it, the low accuracy. So interestingly, also, if we take that volume energy of that in-sphere or inscribed sphere within that tetrahedron resulting from the primordial fractalization, and we input that into the Schwarzschild metric, we get a black hole diameter equivalent to harmonic 144, which I believe is our connection to source, by the way, where we can access any point in time, any dimension, any density, through that umbilical cord, if you will. And the accurate result we get in diameter is actually this 143.541. You recall that this is, again, really, really, really close to the speed of light harmonic that we talked about in nautical miles per geometric second. This is just a brief summary of what we just talked about, that shows that all these distances from the Great Pyramid to the coordinate of origin encodes all these elements emerging from the primordial fractalization mechanism and the energies that are embedded or involved in this mechanism. I just want to take a minute here to show you a high accuracy approach here, which is really stunning. So if we now take this, again, this diameter of a circle that has a circular area of equal to the golden ratio, what is the speed of light harmonic as the true speed of light harmonic based on geometry, and we set that as the diameter of the black hole, the mini black hole within that tetrahedron, and we recalculate all the energies that will emerge from that will result from that, using the equation that I showed, we will end up with an energy of a volume energy of the inscribed sphere in that tetrahedron equivalent to 1864.88. And a tetrahedron total energy equivalent to 617.8911. Okay, so it's slightly different than what we saw earlier. That's the more digit, if you will, more accuracy. Now, if we look actually at the high accuracy distance between the prime meridian and the Khafre pyramid, and I use the Khafre pyramid because it's a bit kind of in the middle of the Giza complex. Look at the distance. We get the distance of 1867.84, and I have the screenshot here of the little tool that I use online to calculate the great circle distance, 1864.67.84. This matches this volume energy of this black hole, mini black hole, 1867.88 and 99.998%. Similarly, now if we use this high accuracy calculation, and we use, instead of 618, we get the high accuracy number, the volume energy of that tetrahedron, 617.8911, and we take 64 of this tetrahedron to create the 3D 64 tetrahedron grid, we get with a volume energy equal to 1 over 2528.7629. And if we look at the high accuracy distance between the coordinate of origin and the Great Pyramid, we get 2528.7624. The match is incredible. So the match is 99.99998%. So this to me was really impactful to me personally, because this mechanism that came to me, this primordial fractalization, you know, from the creation of the universe, if you will, that how everything emerged from that I put forward many months ago. I just discovered that this is actually the mechanism and energies that are associated to that are encoded in the location of the Great Pyramid, which was, you know, pretty significant to me personally. And to complete this presentation, I just want to show here. So I ended up broadcasting this slide that summarizes all these findings that I just described. So I broadcasted it a few days ago using my large radio station and about 150,000 watt of power on 144 megahertz. And let me show you briefly what happened when I broadcasted this. And let me know if you don't hear the sound. And that ends my presentation.